They called themselves doctors, men of science. Officially, they worked for the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department, a name so harmless it could have been printed on a hospital door. But inside the walled compound in occupied Manchuria, they weren't doctors at all. They were executioners with scalpels. Their patients weren't people. They were raw material. The scientists even had a word for them, maruta, the Japanese term for logs. This is the story of Unit 731, where research turned into ritualized torture. Science became slaughter, and thousands died so that war could learn new ways to kill. And the worst part? Many of the men who did it walked free. The road to Unit 731 began long before its gates were built. In the 1930s, as Japan expanded its empire across Asia, one man, General Shiro Ishii, convinced the military that the future of victory lay in science. The world had just outlawed chemical warfare after the horrors of World War I. Ishii saw that not as a moral boundary, but as an opportunity. If chemical weapons were banned, then biological ones could become Japan's secret advantage. He sold the idea with ruthless precision, cheap to make, impossible to detect, and capable of wiping out armies or entire cities. By 1936, Ishii had his empire of death, a sprawling research facility built near Harbin, China, remote, surrounded by prisoners, and perfect for secrecy. Its official name, Manchu Detachment 731. Its real purpose, human experimentation. Prisoners, Chinese, Russians, Koreans, Mongolians, were herded in by the thousands. Once inside, they lost their names, their identities, and their humanity. To Ishii, they were just logs to be burned in the fire of progress. What happened inside the compound defies imagination. Unit 731 wasn't chaos. It was organized cruelty. Every atrocity was cataloged, timed, and measured in the name of science. Prisoners were deliberately infected with the plague, anthrax, cholera, and typhoid. Doctors performed live dissections, vivisections, without anesthesia, watching organs fail in real time. To study frostbite, they froze limbs solid, then smashed them with sticks to see how quickly they would thaw. Others were locked in pressure chambers until their eyes burst. Some were spun in centrifuges to calculate how much force the human body could endure before death. Pregnant women were infected so doctors could study disease in the womb. Children were dissected alongside their parents. It wasn't random. It was methodical, a production line of agony. Between 3,000 and 14,000 died within the walls of Unit 731. Not one prisoner left alive. And the experiments didn't end there. The data was taken to the battlefield. Japanese planes dropped ceramic bombs packed with plague-infected fleas over Chinese towns. Wells were poisoned, food supplies infected. Entire communities became living laboratories. Historians estimate over 200,000 civilians died from these field tests, many from the resulting epidemics. This wasn't warfare. It was a scientific genocide. When Japan's empire began to collapse in 1945, Unit 731 burned with it. General Ishii ordered every trace destroyed, documents, buildings, and every remaining prisoner. No witnesses, no evidence, but justice never came. Because in the ashes of World War II, a new war was beginning. The Cold War. American intelligence discovered what Ishii had built, a massive archive of data on biological warfare gathered through human suffering. They saw it not as a crime, but as valuable research. And so a deal was made. In exchange for that data, Ishii and his officers were given full immunity. While Nazi doctors faced Nuremberg and the gallows, the men of Unit 731 were quietly escorted to safety. General Douglas MacArthur personally approved the arrangement. The United States got exclusive access to the research. Japan got to bury its sins. Some of those same scientists went on to become leaders of Japan's post-war medical community. Professors, pharmaceutical executives, even respected doctors. Their victims remained nameless. Their crimes remained hidden. For decades, Japan denied that Unit 731 ever existed. Only fragments of truth leaked out through Soviet trials and survivor testimonies, dismissed as propaganda. But over time, evidence surfaced. Photos, documents, witness accounts, enough to confirm that every nightmare was real. In 2024, one of the last surviving Youth Corps members, Hideo Shimizu, returned to the site of Unit 731, now a museum, to apologize publicly. He said the silence of his generation was as shameful as the crimes themselves. Unit 731 isn't just a dark chapter in Japan's history, it's a warning to every generation. When science serves power instead of humanity, when progress ignores morality, the result isn't knowledge, it's horror. The people of Unit 731 were stripped of names, faces, and dignity. They were turned into logs. We remember them not just to honor the dead, but to make sure that silence never buries truth again.